Find x squared minus 4x minus 5 is greater than or equal to 0. Step 1 is to find the zeros. So the first thing we do is take x squared minus 4x minus 5 and set it equal to 0. Now, since this is a quadratic, we can either factor it or use the quadratic formula. I'm going to go ahead and factor it. It would factor as x minus 5 and x plus 1. And since this is an equation, I can just set each individual factor equal to 0 and solve that. Because just being equal to 5 is enough to make this whole thing 0. And being equal to -1 will make the whole thing 0. And then I want to mark the zeros on a number line. So step 2 is to take a number line, mark my zeros. I don't need any other numbers on there, frankly. I want to find a test value in each interval. Okay, so I've got an interval here from -infinity to -1. I could use -2 as a number to represent everything over here. I could use, this includes 0 to represent every number in here. And I could use 6. I could use 573, but I don't know why I'd want to. I'm going to use 6. I want to determine whether the y values will be positive or negative. So if I find f of -2, now I could plug it in here or I could plug it in here as long as I'm absolutely positive this is correct. Whichever seems better to you. If I plug it into the original problem, I've got 2 squared minus 4 times 2 minus 5, which would be 4 minus 8 minus 5, which is going to be negative. I usually don't bother to go all the way to find what the answer is because I don't care what the answer is. I'm only interested in whether it's positive or negative.
Would it be -2 squared? And
oh, yes, thank you.
And -2, yeah.
Ah, yes, so that's going to make that a positive 8, which makes this positive. Yeah, that matters. Okay, so this is 12 minus 5 is 7, of course, but it's a positive 7. Yeah, good catch. Okay, so this whole interval is going to give me positive y values. When I plug in the 0, that's going to be, mark that out, -5, which is a negative. And then f of 6 is 6 squared minus 4 times 6 minus 5, 36 minus 24 minus 5 would be 36 minus 29, which is positive. So everything here is going to give me a positive. Now, up to this point, I would work this exactly the same way, regardless of what this sign is. But now, in order to determine what the solutions are, I have to come back up here and say, okay, it has to be greater than or equal to 0. So I'm looking for the positives. I'm looking for the positive intervals. And I'm going to use brackets. Brackets because it's got the equal to part. Positive because it's got that. Brackets because it's got that. So the solution in this case is going to be from -infinity to -1 with a bracket. Union, this one's positive, so 5 to infinity. With a bracket. If this had been less than 0, it would have been from -1 to 5 with parentheses. This is all we need to do. Get the zeros, that's the hardest part. You mark them on a number line, make sure they're in the right order. Get a test value that's in each interval. If 0 is not one of these zeros itself, then I always use 0 for one of my intervals, whichever one would be appropriate, of course. 0 is the easiest thing in the world to plug in. Now, normally, these are going to change every time. So if this is negative, then the 2 on the side should be positive. The graph of this, the zeros are at -1 and +5. You know that this has a positive a and it's a quadratic. So technically the vertex, all this works together. The vertex of this would be at negative, oops, why is this moving? Negative b over 2a, which should be 4 over 2. So the vertex is going to be at the point 2, 4 minus 8 minus 5 would be 4 minus 13 is -9. So the vertex, this is not necessary, this is just added information. The vertex would be down here at the point 2, -9. Missed. This is more or less what the graph would look like, right? We know it's going to be one that opens up. The inequalities and the graphs should not have any kind of contradiction between them. They can't. You can use the inequalities as a way to help get the graph, or you can use the graph as a way to help get the inequalities. So you could, instead of going through this, you could use the graph.